Welcome to week 1, day 2 expectations. I am going to be reading the close reading out loud in this video. However, I'm going to be starting with the expectations. So if you don't need me to read the close reading with you or for you, you can skip that part once I'm done with the expectations. Alright, so the expectations, we are looking at read the next material as a close reading. We've done this a few times in class. As a reminder, if you're not comfortable with it, or just as a reminder. Make sure to underline or highlight important information. I'm looking for about 1 per paragraph, and then write down any questions or ways that you've related to the material. Again, 1 per paragraph. And this is happening on pages 2 through 6 of the PDF. After that reading, you're going to see some material about how and why they created masks and who masks were created for. So your task after doing this close reading is to create your own mask from either natural materials or you just whatever you have around the house, something that reflects who you are, something like that. And then if that is not available, you can also create a story picture or a comic strip of what it was like to be a king during this time. And then there's images on page 7 that you can use as part of your comic strip, the hieroglyphs that they had there. So those are the expectations from me for main lesson. In addition, complete any math work from Miss Moore, review and practice movements for mystery class, and then again 30 to 60 minutes, it really should say 60 minutes right here, of light cardio, such as walking, running, or anything else. I really do hope you guys check out this link because there's other great ideas there. But as long as you're moving your body, please don't just be sitting in a chair all day. Do something. All right, let's get into it. Here we're looking at the reading. It begins on page 2, like I said, so you guys can skip this part if you don't need me to read for you. Day 2. Early archaeologists who explored the land of the ancient Maya had very different things to say about the people they thought had lived there. One said ruins were Roman or Phoenician, and another said that they had been built by the lost tribes of Israel. In 1885, an American explorer, Edward Herbert Thompson, became fascinated with what he saw there and went on to study the ruins for over 30 years. In 1952, an archaeologist named Alberto Ruiz El Huyer made a fascinating find when he started digging beneath the Mayan temple of inscriptions at Palenque. He and his workers dug slowly over several years' time and discovered a stairway leading down to a box about 60 feet down. Inside the box were 6 human skeletons. Then they discovered a low triangular doorway sealed by an enormous stone. Ruiz squeezed behind it into a vaulted room which had been untouched for thousands of years. This room was filled with a great carved stone slab in perfect condition. Human figures modeled in stucco relief probably represented the gods of the underworld, paraded around the walls. A huge monument filled up most of the room, a beautifully carved 12-foot by 7-foot stone slab resting on another immense stone, which in turn was supported by 6 huge chiseled blocks. Ruiz had a narrow hole drilled into the base stone. When the bit reached a hollow space, he poked a wire through the opening. The particles of red paint that stuck to the wire told him that he had found a coffin. The only problem was that the 5-ton sculpted stone slab was on top. Inch by inch, Ruiz and his men were able to lift the beautifully carved slab of stone. What they found was an incredible sight. Not only were the remains of a man, but green jade ornaments, red painted teeth and bones, and the fragments of a beautiful jade mosaic mask. This is where the masks come in. A treasure of jade ornaments had been placed on the dead man, including a headdress, earplugs, a bead collar, a breastplate, rings on every finger, bracelets, and sandal beads. A single bead had been placed in his mouth to make sure that the spirit of this king or high priest could buy food in the afterlife. When the inscriptions on the carved slab were read, it became apparent that this tomb was of a king. His name was Pakal, and he had ruled Palenque from 615 to 683 AD. Ruiz found a stone duct, which means hollow tomb, that ran along the wall of the stairway all the way to the front of the temple so the priest could communicate with the spirit of the dead man below. My mom has actually been here, and it's pretty cool. She really liked it, but it was a long time ago. Anyways, the complicated structure of the temple proves the skill of the Mayan architects. They were magnificent craftsmen and sculptors who glorified the gods and honored their rulers through art and architecture. Each temple was dedicated to the service of a particular god, and temples were usually built in the shape of a pyramid. Stucco cement was spread over the stone building blocks so the outside surface was smooth. Occasionally the stones were carved or the stucco was modeled into different shapes. Then the temple was painted in brilliant colors with paints made from minerals and plants. The Maya were known for a beautiful shade of blue, which they made by mixing indigo dye and a special type of clay. They made reds and pinks from the iron oxide and Brazil wood, yellow from I can't read that. Ochre, urine, and alum, brown from asphalt and bitumen, black from carbon, and green from avocado, or by mixing blue and yellow. The Maya were master potters who produced all kinds of beautifully decorated bowls, plates, and vases. They didn't use a potter's wheel, but shaped the clay by hand. They often took strands of clay and coiled it from pots, jars, and vases. They also made three-footed bowls and whistles in the shapes of different animals. Most of their clay pieces were decorated by being painted or carved. Other Mayan art includes elaborately carved jade and items made with copper and gold. Magnificent murals have been found. They show battle scenes and nobles and priests, dances, ceremonies, and human sacrifice. Many stylized drawings of birds and other creatures have been preserved. Paintings show examples of Mayan weavings and mosaics made of feathers. In these mosaics, many different colors of feathers were pastured, or woven into cotton fabric. The Quetzal was a rare bird whose beautiful feathers were prized. Mosaics made from these costly Quetzal feathers could be worn as helmets or jackets only by priests, chiefs, and very important warriors. Ceremonial masks for religious celebrations and entertainment were made from jade, feathers, and many other materials. Mayan actors wore fantastic wooden masks carved as the faces of animals, birds, and reptiles. Again, the masks are making their way back in. The ancient Maya played a bald game called Pocottuck. It was a ceremonial game that was played for fun, for telling the future, and because they believed it was the favorite game of their gods. Only nobles were allowed to play, but everyone could watch and make bets about what would happen. Pocottuck was played on a court that was shaped like an uppercase L. Uppercase I. There were two teams. Players tried to hit a 6-inch round hard rubber ball against a stone marker in the middle of each of the side walls of the court. Some ball courts had stone hoops instead of markers, but unlike modern basketball, the holes in the hoops were set vertically instead of horizontally. Players wore leather pads on their knees, hips, forearms, elbows, and shoulders, and used only these parts of their bodies to get the ball through the hoop. The ball was not allowed to touch the ground. When the game ended, the spectators quickly ran from the ball court because the custom was for the winning team to take any jewelry, clothing, or other items they wanted from whatever the spectators had with them. Life was hard for most Mayan families. The women got up at 4 a.m. to start the fire and cook cornmeal cakes called tortillas. The men and boys got up at 5 a.m., ate tortillas, and went out in the fields taking lumps of cornmeal dough and gourds full of water. They mixed the dough in the water to make a gruel for lunch. If the crops had already been harvested, the men served as soldiers and laborers, helping to build temples, ball courts, roads, and other construction projects. Nobles didn't do any of the regular work, so the common people had to help build the elite people's houses and work their fields. Each day some corn was put into pottery jars to soak overnight in order to get soft. In the morning the women washed and cleaned the corn and then ground it into flour. All grinding was done by hand, with a grinding stone rubbed against the hollowed out stone slab. The women had many other household duties as well, such as caring for the children, taking care of the family animals, ducks, turkeys, deer, and monkeys, gathering cotton, spinning, and weaving. The two most important crops were corn and cotton because they provided food and clothing. Corn was considered sacred and there were religious rules about every step of its planting. The Maya believed that the souls of the corn plants would move to a clean, newly prepared field if weeds were allowed to grow in the old field. Therefore, old fields were abandoned to the jungle and new ones readied for the next corn crop. Beans and corn were planted together in the same hole so the bean vine could wrap itself around the corn for support as it grew taller. Farmers also planted tobacco, sweet potato, cacao beans, squash, gourds, chili peppers, pumpkins, and jicama. Orchards were filled with avocado trees. Papayas, bananas, nuts, and plantain grew wild. Many people kept beehives in hollow logs in order to have easy access to the honey. Corn was eaten at every meal in both gruel and tortillas. The evening meal usually included tortillas, black beans, and vegetables that were seasonally available. When the men went hunting, there might be rabbit, deer, turkey, armadillo, or even turtle meat for dinner. Mayans also loved to drink hot chocolate made from cacao beans. All right, that is the close reading. I went through it kind of quick. If you need to go over it again, just replay the video. But yeah, pretty cool ideas here. I'm really fascinated by the Yucatan Peninsula, so I hope you guys want to study it more. Here you can find more information about how to create your mask. Again, you can use natural materials, or you can use materials around your house. Or you can not make a mask at all and just work on creating like a comic strip using these figures below. So yeah, that would be pretty sweet. And if you make your own Poketop game by making a hoop and mounting it high against the wall outdoors, that would be even cooler. But thank you guys so much. Continue with your work. I really do miss you guys. I hope you are all well and healthy. And have a good rest of your day.